Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sony booth for NAB 2018. Next up in our presentations that we're holding throughout the day is Rob Scribner. Rob's going to speak about what is instant HDR and how to shoot it. Take it away, Rob.
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas. So my name is Rob Scribner, and I'm going to be talking about the instant HDR workflow. So just to put it very simply, is what is instant HDR? Well, you can sum it up to all you have to do is shoot it, edit it, and then deliver it as long as it's an HDR monitor. So basically, how do you do that? Sony has worked very closely with BBC to create HLG for their FS5 cameras, Z150, and actually quite a few other ones that have been released recently here at NAB. HLG stands for Hybrid Log Gamma. It's not necessarily new. It's been out for 4 years or so. BBC's been using it for broadcast to deliver HLG. The reason is because it's a quick turnaround. There's no need to convert anything. So HLG is basically a new gamma curve that's going to basically, let me pull up a slide here, kind of show you what the gamma curve looks like. Right there, there's kind of a rough idea of what it is. So you can see where a normal SDR curve 709 would be, which would be the red line. The blue line is going to be your new hybrid log gamma curve. So it's basically going to allow you to retain a lot more information in your highlights. So in order to shoot HDR in these cameras, one, you have to have HLG enabled in the camera. Two, you also have to be shooting in a BT 2020 color space. So the way you do that is you just go into your camera. So a lot of these cameras they used to have just picture profiles 1 through 9. Last year with some firmware updates and the release of these new ones, they're adding a picture profile 10 into the camera. It's the only profile in the camera that you can actually enable these settings. So you go down to picture profile 10, turn it on, and then inside there you can actually change it from HLG 1, 2, or 3. They've been kind enough to build in 3 different versions of HLG for us, so for different shooting conditions such as low light conditions, nighttime, middle, like kind of just in the middle, and then like broad daylight. So actually, as I'm going along here and talking about this, on the 2 screens on the far right, you'll see a bunch of different stuff that we've shot and other filmmakers have shot, the comparison between HLG and 709 and what the difference is. So you can kind of keep referencing back and forth between some of our slides and whatnot. So, see, what else is there? I know you guys are hear a lot about HDR, especially in the Sony booth area. There's other flavors out there such as HDR10 for Blu-ray, there's PQ, Dolby stuff. HLG is just another flavor of it. All those other ones, what makes them different compared to HLG is that you actually have to take the image in post-production, work the image, and turn it into HDR. Versus shooting HLG, once you're shooting, you're already shooting HDR. You don't have to do any conversions to anything at all. So basically, once you've gone into your picture profile 10, selected which HLG you want, 1, 2, or 3, then you're done. Now all you have to do is start shooting. So here's just a couple of images of when we're out there field testing this stuff. I'll do my best to reference it as I'm as I'm going through this here. And the images are a little pixelated right now, so we'll get to the bottom of it soon. So we talked about what is HLG. Who is it for? Why should you be interested in HDR, instant HDR? This stuff is going to be more designed for quick turnaround projects, lower budget, where you don't have time to spend lots of time in post-production, which can eat away real fast at your budgets. It could be for lack of skill. Maybe you don't know how to take something to put it up into HDR, but your clients are asking for it. That's another use for it. And then even broadcast, because you need it going live or sent streaming out somewhere. It's already in HDR. So, see, we talked about that. Okay, so now that we know who it's for, what it is exactly, what kind of color space that needs to be shot in, how do you actually shoot it in the field? Is there anything different? Well, there actually is some differences in the field while shooting. Um, what you have to do is you have to take your highlights. Let me see. Actually, it's kind of a good image here. So you actually want to push your highlights really far over to the right, which feels kind of wrong. Feel like you're going to be losing your data. But remember, going back to that gamma curve where you had that long stretch, there's so much more information in this gamma curve. So basically, the best thing to do is use your histogram and your zebra. Set up your histogram, set it to around your Zebra 1, set it to around 94, 96%. Then you want to set your aperture level with about a 4% threshold. So basically push all your highlights right to the edge there to where you start to see the zebras kind of popping up. Now you're in the world of HDR. There is going to be one thing that's going to be a little misleading though, is that these screens on these cameras are not HDR monitors. So Sony has built in a gamma assist. And you can kind of see it. It's a little hard to read in there right now, but the gamma assist is actually on, and it's applying a lit to it so that on your 709 screen you can gauge what it would look like on an HDR monitor. So, but the thing is, it still just gets you into a ballpark. You're still going to feel like you're blowing out your highlights and whatnot. The biggest thing when shooting HDR and HLG stuff is trust your data. So, you know, it takes a little trial and error, but again, trust the data, know that it's there. But other than that, actually another option is if you're not quite comfortable with that and you say you have a client on set and they're going, no, we're bring it back down. It's like, no. If you have, say, like an Atmos Inferno, they support HLG as a field recorder. So you can plug that in HDMI, SDI, and have it set to HLG, and it's going to look like the final product when it's displayed properly on an HDR monitor. So it kind of gives you that warm and cozy of like, yes, this is beautiful image. It's going to have that really nice sharp pop factor to it. You're not recording to the monitor, it's just a monitor. Everything is being recorded internally to the camera. It's the same file. It's still being recorded to your your SD card, say like on an FS5. Yeah, so nothing really changes, just the gamma curve. File size, all the same. So now that you've shot your images, how do you work with it? Well, you can take it and you can transport all this stuff into your favorite editor, DaVinci, Final Cut, Premiere. I like Premiere, so I'm kind of just talk about that. So it's real simple. Just take it, import it like you would with anything else, drop it into your timeline, and all you have to do is a very, very simple edit. No color grading is necessary when you're using instant HDR. Again, that's why it's called instant HDR. You're not reworking the footage. It's fast turnaround. So take your in and out points, make a nice compelling edit, warp stabilize your footage if you need to, and then once you have your edit and you're ready to go, just simply export it, and then it's pretty much ready to go. So like, let's say you're going to be outputting to YouTube or Vimeo. They both support HLG now. So that's the back end support's already there. The biggest thing to remember though is if you shoot HDR, it has to be displayed on an HDR monitor. If it's not, you can see the difference between the two on some of these shots on the two far right-hand screens. I don't know if it's necessarily the right video. I don't know if these ones are actually playing, but if you guys want to glance over there in a minute, you'll see a difference between the two screens over. Actually, it'd be your guys' left, my right. You'll see the differences between them if you're playing a HLG on a 709. It's going to look a little washed out, a little bit flatter, but if you display it properly on the right monitor with HLG, it's going to have more pop in the highlights. Just a nicer, cleaner, prettier image is what you're going to get. So I just can't stress that enough, is that make sure that it's being displayed on an HDR monitor. So let me see if I've hit all my subject points here. I think that's about it. Do any of you guys have any questions at all? Yeah.
What if you are going on also to SDR?
So if you are going to SDR, so that's a great question actually. So again, we're going back to instant HDR. So like if you know you're going to be outputting to an HDR display, shoot in HLG. Quick, easy, fast, don't need to work with it. You can if you want, but that's not the point of it. If you need to bring it back down to SDR, you actually should work the footage a little bit. They do have some LUTs and stuff that you can help apply to them real quickly for fast turnaround again, but again, you have to work the footage. So if you know that you're just going to be going straight SDR and you're not doing anything HDR at all, then just shoot S-Log. You already know you're doing that. You're still going to be working it anyways. So that's the biggest thing to understand about instant HDR is the minimal work on the post-production side. So, any other questions at all? Here's another good example of just some of the highlights and stuff where we've actually used our histogram, how we set up our zebras and whatnot. So this lets us know that our highlights on everything, we're in the HDR world right now. But it feels like it's clipping on the screen there, but it's really not. I thought I had a side-by-side comparison shot. Actually, this is kind of a good one here. You see that we're pushing all these highlights right to the right here, and it's all blown out, but if you watch the original clip, actually it's playing right now. You can see the side-by-side of what a 709 versus an HLG looks like, and there's a pretty distinct difference there. But that particular shot right there, there's actually a lot of detail in the background. Even with that gamma assist, it's still not showing it there. So again, trust the data. So. Any other questions?
Is there one place online to go to get this information?
Say that one more time?
Is there like one place?
Is there a place online you could go to get this information?
Oh. Yeah, actually you can go to the Sony website. They actually have a lot of information on there. I would even go on Facebook to the FS5 groups, and I think they even have HLG ones now. There's lots of information where Alistair Chapman's done big presentations on that. Really, really great stuff. And it's pretty much the same exact thing I just talked about, maybe a little more detailed. He's got longer time slots and stuff, so yeah, you can find a lot more information online. Yeah, so it is good. He knows what he's doing. So. Any other questions out there? All right. Oh yeah, go ahead.
So S-Log, if I wanted to shoot an S-Log,
yeah,
and create a final movie that's in HDR, is that possible?
Yes. So if you want to shoot, that's exactly it. So if you're shooting S-Log and you want to take something to HDR, yes, you can absolutely do that. But now it's a post game. So now you're going to be sitting in the editing booth, working the footage. Say you have a low budget or it's just you. You're going to be eating away at your time and your budget, your money, all that stuff.
In that instance, then I wouldn't shoot S-Log at
exactly.
all.
You'd go straight.
Just do 10,
picture profile 10.
Pick one of the 3.
That's correct.
What I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. You'd shoot instant HDR if you know you want to output that way. So it's a huge time saver.
So
it looks great.
One of the 3 options is instant HDR?
Okay. Yes. Yep. So yeah. Well, it's all instant HDR. There's 3 different flavors of it, basically. So HLG1 is going to be designed for nighttime shooting. HLG3 is going to be for broad daylight. And then HLG2 is obviously going to be right in the middle. So yeah, and the HLG1 just really crushes the blacks a little bit because you will get noise in your blacks if you shoot in HLG3. So we did a lot of testing with that. So.
HLG1 is for nighttime shooting.
Yes, that's correct.
HLG3 is daytime.
Yeah, broad daylight. Yeah, exactly.
Like indoors and
yeah, in the middle. Yeah, I honestly didn't find myself using 2 as much, but that's purely because when we were shooting, most of it was either extreme nighttime, extreme daytime. So, yeah.
Which camera are you using?
So the HLG is actually supported by quite a few cameras this year. Last year it was only the FS5 and Z150. Now I believe there's like 6 different cameras. I think it's going to be the Z190. Pretty much all the cameras over there where it says instant HDR workflow, they all support HLG HDR.
which HLG would you recommend for indoor conference type artificial light?
If you're indoor, like lighting your own stuff and conferences and stuff, I would probably recommend HLG2. So, but I mean, it just depends on your situation. I would test it to make sure, but it's probably going to be either 1 or 2.
Editing workflow in with any of them in Premiere is it just put it on and
Yep, you just put it into your timeline. You basically, like, because you don't need to necessarily color grade anything. Your scopes work the same. There's no like HDR timeline or anything like that. The idea is that you don't need to do anything to the image at all. So you just do a basic edit, and then you export it, and then you're done. So, and then whatever you do is, whatever you're exporting to, if you know it's going to be displayed on the HDR monitor, or if it's going to be going online streaming HDR, follow their guidelines. So YouTube has their own guidelines for HLG, Vimeo has their own guidelines for HLG. Just make sure you research those, because everyone's is a little bit different, I believe. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Are those 3 flavors of HLG
Yes.
currently available on like the FS5?
Yes, that's correct. All the cameras have the same exact setting, so HLG 1, 2, and 3. There's actually a 4th one in there, but it's kind of like a standard one. I mean, I would definitely recommend, you know, shooting in the right HLG version for that you need.
The Mark II of the FS5, is that basically, that's more about getting the Venice?
Yeah, the color space. Yeah, but if I understand it correctly, they are not, when you're shooting a picture profile 10, it's still the same. Like, it's not really using that new data, because this gamma curve it's its own beast. Yeah. Yeah. So, any other questions? I think I might be getting drowned out, so. If you have any other questions, feel free to stop me on the side. Thank you guys very much. It's just another picture, so want me to.
Sony's new adventure into
Nice.
motion picture camera technology.
Yeah.
What we did is a couple of years ago, we started going back out into
Cool.
the field with that, and